I know. It's a very inflammatory title, one that I know is going to get me in a whole lot of trouble. But I've been thinking this for a very long time, and my friends who are Batman fans are starting to think this too. And so I thought that now would be as good as any time to talk about it. Why I think the Batman Part 2 might never happen. Okay, context. The Batman Part 2 has been delayed again now from 2026 to 2027. And that was after it was delayed from 2025, October 2025 of this coming year, to 2026. And that was after it was originally rumored to be coming out in 2024, the year that is now closing out. So this announcement in particular, this latest delay, has fans up in arms and fans very, very frustrated. But what we continuously are hearing behind the scenes is that Matt Reeves just doesn't have a finished script. He just doesn't have a finished script that he wants to produce. And he wants to make sure that this is the perfect script for the perfect sequel. And some people have been defending it, that Matt Reeves takes a long time to get his scripts done. However, I want to question all of this and question, really, is it really Matt Reeves just taking literally 5 years to even come up with a rough draft to a movie that was very successful, and that he very clearly had ideas and a vision for a sequel for already? Is he just taking that much time to work on this one script when he literally doesn't have any other projects lined up? Because, and I want to remind people of something, once again, the context, when the first Batman came up all the way back in March of 2022, it was the first DC film, the only DC film in the past 5 years that was a financial success, the only one that had mainstream success. Despite some reports that Warner Brothers wanted it to do even better, they wanted it to be $1 billion hit, it did incredibly well. And so immediately, if you go back and watch interviews right after the Batman released, Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson and all those guys were very, very enthusiastic about a sequel. And they were throwing out immediate ideas about where they would go for a sequel. The Court of Owls was brought up enough, some saying that they had already set the seeds for that in the first movie and where this would lead into. They greenlit and started production on the Penguin series, but also had a lot of other productions rumored to be in development, which we'll talk about later. But the point is that despite hearing all these years that Matt Reeves is as struggling with the script and not happy with it, and that's why the film keeps getting a release date and then delayed, which makes no sense, by the way. Once again, we'll talk about it. It's like, but he was so enthusiastic and he seemed to have all these ideas. What happened? Well, it seemed that the Batman Part 2, would probably come out in a couple years, which is what typically has been happening with modern day Hollywood sequels, if they're planned out and as long as nothing goes wrong. But we heard a radio silence on the film for months after that until James Gunn took over DC, and then we heard a continued silence on the film until James Gunn announced that the Batman universe would be separate from his, with a Part 2 with Matt Reeves producing, and that he would be developing a separate Batman film for his own universe. And this was highly confusing to me watching it, because first of all, I want to highlight, this announcement completely undermined the success of the Batman universe, because it all of a sudden said that universe that everyone waited for and had been enjoying with the first movie, that's not the main universe anymore. That's the side universe. James Gunn is coming in and is making his own universe. And there was conflict there that maybe Matt Reeves doesn't want to join with the universe and that he wants this to be his own thing, and so Gunn has to create his own thing. But anyway, there was controversy there. But the point is that for a time we heard that the Batman Part 2, maybe it'll just be one more film and it'll just be its own separate thing. And then that's when the pattern started, where it would be that we've heard progress being made. We've heard that Matt Tomlin is working on the script, that Matt Reeves is working on the script. And then we'll hear that they're getting ready to shoot. And then we'll hear a cast member who would be involved with it say that we haven't had any communication about this. We haven't heard anything. And then we'll get an announcement that's being delayed and that there still isn't a rough draft. We'll get a new release date, and then people making it sound like there's progress and ideas being floated around about what it might be about. But then we'll get more no script, no rough draft yet. Matt Reeves is taking his time on it, updates. And that's been what's happening, going on and on and on. And we keep getting the excuse that Matt Reeves just wants this to be perfect. But the thing is, if you want something to be perfect, then why not just hold off on announcing any type of release date until you know for sure that you're going to start shooting, until you've talked to cast members, until all of that stuff has happened? That's incredibly fishy to me. And that leads us mostly, I'll have a couple more details to say, to the present day when we have this latest announcement of the movie being delayed yet again to 2027. And I knew this was going to happen. It was only a matter of time until it was being announced. Because they announced that a Clayface movie was going to come out a month before the original release date, and it would be set in Gunn's DCU and produced by Matt Reeves, but not have to do with the Batman. That just didn't add up. I knew that they would have to delay this movie again, especially because it was taking so long. But there's a lot of other things that don't add up here, because just last week, Matt Reeves was saying that he's getting ready to shoot, and now we have another delay. And James Gunn has come out with a lot of excuses for this, saying no one knows how long a script will take to make, but except for he had his Superman script ready, and the movie is shot and ready to come out this year, as was originally planned. He's also done season 2 of Peacemaker, written that. He's also done an entire show of Creature Commandos, which he wrote, which the show is airing now. As the co-CEO of the company, he's done a whole lot. And I'll tell you this, it's not that scripts don't have deadlines. Like WB, the executives, they made money off of the Batman. They should want to get out a sequel. It's not like they don't have deadlines for these things and they need to get people started. It's not like Matt Reeves have had other things go on that he's working on and producing that has caused any delays. It's just this that he's working on, and we still don't have anything to show for it. Honestly, if you're a guy with that as much experience as Matt Reeves and the Batman Part 2, he seemed to have so many ideas for it in the beginning. It's just very hard to believe that this one script that he's struggling with it that much, and that there would be multiple release dates for it when he still knows full well that it isn't ready. Or isn't it ready? And that's what's fishy about it. The other thing that James Gunn said is, well, sequels take a long time, and he listed a bunch of sequels that came out decades ago that were never intended to be sequels, and were just getting sequels because of companies looking back at them and seeing what a major IP they became as individual movies. He also announced his own film, Guardians 3, even though he knows full well that that was delayed 6 years because he was fired and then rehired by Marvel. That was an exceptional circumstance, and every MCU film is a sequel. But when you take a movie like The Batman, where even though Batman fans really like it, I will admit that it doesn't seem to have hit the cultural zeitgeist in the way, say, the Dark Knight trilogy did. So I think that these delays for The Batman could legitimately discourage fans and legitimately make people disinterested in this universe. And is that the point? Now, there's been a rumor floating around that Matt Reeves is going through personal problems, like marital issues, and that's why it's being delayed. Now, I don't want to sound insensitive about this, because if he is going through issues, then that takes precedent. Your personal life takes precedent. However, this is merely a rumor that was randomly floated out the other day by scoopers. We have no way of verifying any of this. And I'm wondering if it's being used as just a cover for what's really going on, all these excuses. Because let me tell you, people in Hollywood have worked through personal issues and marital problems all throughout their careers. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom was made during George Lucas's divorce, which he has talked about. Once again, I don't want to sound insensitive if this information is true, but it's just still very hard to believe that even if Matt Reeves is going through some personal problems right now, that it would be that difficult for him to finish a Batman script within 5 years, or have Matt Tomlin or Lauren LeFranc, who did The Penguin, work on it or help him with it. That just doesn't make sense. But here's the thing, is maybe the point of all of this that this movie keeps getting pushed off so that people lose their hype for it and become disinterested in this universe? Because what happened in between Matt Reeves seeming so enthusiastic for sequels and different spin-offs for his Batman universe, and then all of that going away and seeming like they just can't get a script done? It was James Gunn being hired for the DCU and having all these different plans for it and having his own Batman planned. I know I'll get in trouble for this because James Gunn has fans who don't believe that he could ever do anything that might be the least bit underhanded, but this guy has fibbed a lot. Like, on screen, he says that he loves Matt Reeves, they're in good terms, and that he just wants to give Matt Reeves all the time in the world to work on his Batman sequel. But let's just go through the list of things that James Gunn has said that didn't come true. He was acting very, very charitable with everyone who was in the original DCU. With Ben Affleck, he said, yeah, I just talked to the guy, we're going to get some stuff worked out, we're going to have him work on a project. Before a week later, Ben Affleck came out and said, I would never work on a DC project in a million years. We never talked about that. He was saying that he didn't didn't give Gal Gadot the boot when he did in fact give Gal Gadot the boot. James Gunn talks out of the sides of his mouth and puts on a front and says things that aren't true all the time because he wants to hide what's actually going on behind the scenes. Being in charge of DC, he has the problem of dealing with fans who are already fans of things that were left behind that he didn't work on. So as he's treated literally every other thing in the DCEU that isn't his own because his own projects and elements have stayed on and his own people, could he not be doing the same thing to the Batman Part 2? Making it sound just like he did with Ben Affleck and Gal Gadot and Henry Cavill and all of them, that there's a place for them in the future and that they're moving forward with it and letting these people breathe and do what they want, when really he wants to take it back to his own universe? Because that's what I see, that James Gunn wants things to be under his umbrella. The Batman Part 2 does not make sense for a new DC universe if it's going to be its own separate thing. Let's say if Superman is super successful, what's going to happen? Yeah, people are going to be interested in going to the Batman Part 2, a completely separate universe a couple years later, and then circling back to a new Batman from James Gunn. The Batman is an outlier, and it's also competition. Think of how well The Penguin, which finally got released when it came out, was received. Better received than any of James Gunn's stuff. That's competition. He doesn't want that. It's not like this is just a random character he doesn't care about that's an offshoot of DC. This is Batman himself. And there's one last little piece of evidence I want to give to this. Originally, there was a Clayface movie by Mike Flanagan that was going to be set in the Matt Reeves verse before it was canceled. There were also rumors of other films like a Poison Ivy film that was supposed to be released, and James Gunn said that those weren't happening, and it was revealed in leaks that they were just canned. Now we hear of a Mike Flanagan Clayface film that is, to be fair, happening in the DCU, produced by Matt Reeves, but it is in James Gunn's DCU rather than Matt Reeves' Batman universe. I think it's actually pretty obvious why the Batman Part 2 hasn't happened. I think the only way that it will happen is either A, if the Batman somehow joins James Gunn universe, if that's what both parties even want, or if Superman is a failure and they'll lean back on that, but I don't know if that's going to be possible because with all of these frustrating delays, I don't know if people are going to want to return to this version of Batman at that point, or a DC movie in general. And if Superman is a runaway success, then there is just no way that they are going to circle back to this Batman universe. To try to be a bit more charitable to James Gunn, it might be that Matt Reeves has the full understanding of this, but they just won't let that get out publicly because they know the backlash. Rather, it seems almost like the plan is to give people false hopes, because why keep announcing these release dates to something that is clearly not happening right now? It seems like they just keep leading on fans and delaying this project more and more and more until people get frustrated and start to ignore this universe, opening the door for James Gunn to create a new Batman to hype up as the main Batman, phasing out the Batman universe of Matt Reeves, so to speak. It's just a bit too obvious for me, and honestly, the effect is kind of working when I'm becoming frustrated and I'm starting to give up on this universe, as you can tell by this video, because it's just so questionable if this is actually going to be a thing or not. I do think it's kind of a waste though, because I do think that Matt Reeves, and just look at the Penguin, had a lot of good qualities and that he did have some strong characterizations for these characters. And I am kind of tired of watching the Game of Thrones that is the DC universe that continues in this fractured universe and this fractured storytelling and different motivations behind the scenes. But I feel that this is the actual truth of what's happening, and I think that James Gunn's excuses about, well, scripts can take forever, no one knows how long, when he got his stuff out immediately, or that the one universe that isn't his, it's just a bit too convenient that the one universe that isn't James Gunn is the one that they're supposedly struggling with the script or struggling behind the scenes with personal issues. Too convenient. I think no matter what truth there is to the different stories being told, they don't want this universe happening if Superman is successful. They want to continue with that universe. But once again, just kind of disheartening. But those are just my thoughts. I could be wrong. That is just my speculation. What do you think of my speculation? Are you mad at me whenever I open my mouth about DC? This is what happens. Let me know in the comments below. Thank you, patrons, as always, for supporting this channel. If you want to support my work on this channel, please consider the Patreon link in the description, and I will see you guys next time.